Hey, it's Dan Axelson, your biker in the kitchen, coming to you from my messy garage here. Came out to take a ride on my motorcycle and got a disappointment today. Did that ignition on thing. Went to start her up. That's not good. Gonna have to do something about that. Okay, well, I'm all too familiar with that sound. Arizona, we eat up batteries here. This is a 3-year-old bike, and I put I had the original battery in it from its purchase, and I put one other in it in 3 years. I'm getting about a year and a half out of each battery, and doesn't matter what the quality level is. The OEM seems to only last about as long as the aftermarkets. So the first one was OEM, the second one, the one that's in it now, is the aftermarket, and the Arizona desert just eats them up. So I'm going to change the battery out today, and I'll do a video here to show you how I do it. My normal disclaimer is I'm better in the kitchen than I am out here in the mechanic bay, so I'm not a mechanic. I'm working on my own bike. I'm doing what makes sense to save myself money, and if it makes sense to you, follow along. If not, take your bike to the shop, because I can't claim to be a professional at this. We're going to take this bike apart and show you how to do it. Okay, step one is we have to remove the seat. But the battery on a Road King is located under the seat, not in a battery box. That's probably the same with your street glides and road glides and most of your touring bikes as well. So you can find your battery under the seat. First thing to do to remove the seat is you need to remove this screw back here. Just use a stubby screwdriver. Could use a bigger one, but I've got the sissy bar on here that I don't want to take off, which I could. That's being just lazy. So remove that screw. And then if you've got side bags on your saddlebags on your bike, and you use a stubby screwdriver, if you just open the lid, I'm not sure if my video is capturing that or not. Let me look. Yeah, it's captured most of it. You've got this strap here that goes across your seat that has a screw down here that needs to be removed. And you can just pull that strap, throw it over there for the time being. On your seat will just lift up. There's a place in the front for this tab right here to go in. It slides in that way. That secures the front. Screw secures the back. Alright, put that aside. Try to get close up here. You wouldn't know there was a battery in there by looking at this. It's actually under this engine control module, which needs to be moved. And all this stuff is kind of in the way. This bracket here with these screws holds the battery down. But these other things are connected to the top, and we've got to get them out of the way first. The module just connects with two tabs, which are right down here on each side. So if you flip those out. All right, that was difficult to impossible to do one-handed holding the camera, so I put it back on the tripod. Just going to pop these up out of the way, and then this module just comes up. You don't need to unplug it, you don't need to do anything, just move it out of the way. And you've got this connection here. I think that will come up with the plate. And this just unplugs. Move that out of the way. Everything else will just stay there. So now we've got the two bolts here. As with most Harley things, they are torque bolts. I think they're either a 22 or a 25. I'll tell you in a second here. Bigger than both of those. They also are a 1/2 inch. They're hex on the outside. So if you just got a regular socket, a hex will do the same job. T40, torque 40. That's just a plastic cover, so when you torque it back down, don't go nuts with the torque on it. It doesn't need to be super tight. You'll break it. Probably speed this up in the video so it's not so boring watching me just turn the bolts here. Alright, now that cover should just lift up. And there's a little latch on the front of it. You kind of got to move it forward, and then it comes up. And it'll just move out of the way like that. So then that exposes your battery. You got your negative over here and your positive here. And again, we can just use a screwdriver to take that loose. Always remove your negative first. You want to unground that battery. And just use a little extra here. I've got a little piece of black tape here. I'm just going to tape that lead off so that it doesn't short against anything. Just real temporarily. Move that out of the way. And then pull positive. There's a little strap here that goes under the battery. It'll help you get it up because it's really down in there. It's fairly heavy. So pull up on the strap, which gets your battery out. Okay, actually this is a Harley Davidson battery. Okay, so I pulled that battery out, and as you can see, I was not certain myself if that was my first battery or my second, so I had to go do some research. It was a Harley OEM battery, so that kind of threw me off. That I was thinking maybe it was the original battery, but I did buy one a 1.5 years ago. So either way, I'm getting about 1.5 years out of these batteries in my weather conditions. So I did a little bit of research while I was gone there and checked prices just around. Harley's $170 plus tax for that OEM battery. Walmart, although they have very limited selection, is about $80 for one that fits. Whether or not the quality level is a different question. And then I just checked with the car parts places, like I bought mine at AutoZone and got one there. Their best one was $129. So still, a pretty big savings over the Harley battery. And I think it's going to last a year and a half, one way or the other. So I don't think it really makes any difference. And we'll unbox that here. So this is the Duralast Gold. Essentially, it's the best quality that the AutoZone has. Exact size, exact fit. There is some controversy, if you will, on OEM versus aftermarket batteries. And most of that controversy comes right here. Let me see if we can see that or not. Am I pointed towards that? Let me move this over here a little bit. Right here. The Harley battery cables are routed up the side of the battery in the front. And then they flush mount against this battery post. And if it's not flush mount, which in this case it's not quite flush mount, then you are going to, if you just bolt that on, you're going to get a gap there, and that gap is going to provide area for a spark to jump across there, arcing. And obviously arcing and gasoline and things like that don't mix very well on your motorcycle. So most of them are going to come with, I don't know if you can see it here or not, but right here on top are these two little spacers. So the spacers will go here and fill up the gap between the edge of the battery case and the connection point. And that'll allow you to tighten your bolt down tightly. Alright, so we're going to drop the battery in. One thing when buying the battery, make sure your positive and your negative are on the proper side to match your machine. You don't want to cross those wires up. There aren't enough room. Also your strap, so when you pull it out next time, make sure you get that pulled out so that it's going to be underneath the battery. Clear any of the cables out of the way. And then we're going to finesse the new battery down in there. It's right there. Now I've left the, if you can see that or not, but I've left the red plastic cap on the battery on the positive station just so I don't drop my wrench or anything and short across there. And you always want to connect your negative first. So I'm going to untape it. And actually, my battery uses the top holes. I didn't realize that until I looked at the battery cable just now. Uses the top holes of the battery post instead of the side mount holes. So that issue with the spacer doesn't make any difference at all. In other words, I don't need to use the spacer. Alright, so the negative's connected. Now I'm going to pull the red cap off of the positive side. Grab my mounting screw. All right, both of those are tight. Now I'm going to put the tray back in place. And again, it's got a little, I don't know if you can see that right there, there's a hole right here that clips on a latch down there. So that goes down first. Want that to clip in. That. And then we can put the screws onto the back. The batteries posts come with two sets of holes in them, so if you are using a tender or putting some secondary accessories on there, you want to make sure you connect your battery right to the battery cables right to the battery themselves. And connect your accessories to the other hole on the post. All right. Now these don't need to be really tight. Again, it's just a plastic cover. That's done. Then we unplugged this from right here. Just slides right on if you get the angle right. And then the engine controller goes in, and that just pops down. Double check all your connections while you're in there because you don't get under here very often. Make sure your cables are down below your seat level so you don't crush them with your seat and sit on them. And one other quickie thing you might want to do, since we don't get under the seat very often, is go ahead and clean it up a little bit underneath here. A little dirty. You hardcores probably pull your seat when you clean your bike, but I'm not that hardcore. I guess before we put the seat on, we should test it, huh? It's a good sign. I must have leaned on the shift lever, so be careful of that. The bike wasn't in neutral. And there she goes. I must have did it right. Got my camera facing downwards and it's on a precarious ledge, so it wants to tilt off. All right, under the seat, there's this receptacle for this tab, this black tab. So we want to get that in place. This slides up in it. And we've got our strap. That goes on with Phillips screw. Again, I still have my saddlebag open. That screws right in there. And the final screw goes back here. Probably can't see that on the camera. Let me grab it. Go live here. Behind the seat. Just the reverse of what I took off there. And so that's the process. The way I do it anyway. Again, I can't say that I'm a professional by any means. I made the decisions the way I made them, and I told you why. Probably would have been cheaper if I would have planned ahead. This bike has been turning over slow probably for 2 months. So I knew this was coming, and I was kind of lazy, probably like most of us, and I waited until it wouldn't start before I did something. Thank goodness it was at home and not out on a trip somewhere. But the battery was, unusable by the time I got around to replacing it. I waited until I got the old battery out to go find a new battery and to do really my shopping on that. So maybe I paid a little bit more, for that as well. I didn't buy Harley OEM. I took the battery with me, so I was able to give that to the AutoZone people for a core charge, which does two things. It saved me the money of the core charge, and it also responsibly gets rid of the battery. So that takes care of that. So again, it's how it's my process on how I took care of my battery on my Harley 2014 Road King.